What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today, a day to forget for me. But before we forget it, let's make sure we go into what happened, what I did wrong, what trades did I take that didn't align with some of the things that were going on in the market. Coming into today and coming into almost every day over the last few weeks, I have been looking for pullbacks that I could go ahead and long. This is basically what we saw today. But unfortunately, for me today, I was a little bit too aggressive, a little bit too early. Now, you guys saw later in the day the market reversed, it held key demand, and the pullback long did set up. Now, what happened to me today was I just entered too early, had to take some losses, and by the time that I took the losses that I did, I was sort of hitting a level in my portfolio that I lost confidence. I didn't really want to continue to trade. I sort of told myself, just cut it here, move on to a new day. If this market does end up bouncing, so be it. You can look for another opportunity tomorrow. I got myself into a sticky situation where the pullback long was what I was looking for. It was exactly what happened today, but I got in too early, too aggressive, had to cut some losses, and basically I sit there and watch the market do pretty much exactly what I wanted it to do, but without me. So an unfortunate day, right? One of the days that we're going to experience as traders. This is going to happen. The trades and the losses that I took were very well within risk tolerance. It's a larger red day, but when we look back at my last month over my last performances, this is pretty much in line with some of the green days that I've had. So it is good in that sense. I know that I can make back my loss today with one good trading day. That is what's positive about today. So let's go ahead and break down the trades. I'll share with you really where everything started wrong, where I got wrong this morning, pretty much right off the open. So here we go. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Let's jump into the charts, and then let's pull up TradeZella, guys. So here is my day. Red on the day, about $6,300. I did realize some profits on Apple today, that Apple swing trade, which looks very good. I did realize those profits, but you guys can pretty much see I was wrong on just about every day trade that I took today. I took AMD calls. I was wrong. I took some Google, really small. I cut them quickly. I'm not even going to talk about that one, but I was wrong there as well. TSM, I was wrong. Netflix, I was wrong. And then AMD later day, I was wrong again. So I was pretty much wrong on everything that I traded, which is unfortunate, right? The thing that I like about this trading day, right? The good thing that I like about looking at this and seeing the losses here was that if you focus here on the right side, the ROI of these trades, they are all very much the same, around that 20 to 25% area. This is really what a normal loss is for me. So when I look at this and I look at all the amounts being relatively the same size, right, anywhere between that $2,000 and $3,000 range, 20 to 25% is the losses that I typically take. You know what? I'm happy when I look at this because, and I just realized that my face is not on the screen. So hello, there's my face. My face is back. But going back to what I was talking about, I can see that these losses are all within risk tolerance. They're all about that 20-25% loss, comfortable for the size of the account, comfortable in regards to the dollar amount, but the win rate was just not there, right? And this shows me that I was just reading the market incorrect today. And we cannot expect ourselves as traders to read the market correct on a day in and day out basis. This is 100% not possible as a trader. And when you start to realize that you are not having a day that you are reading the market correctly, you have to be able to know when to stop, right? And so for me today, I knew around that 11, 10 o'clock time, I knew something was wrong. I was off today. Something was not being read correctly. Just didn't have that confidence. I could feel it in my trading that I wasn't confident after taking some of those early losses, and I had to do the right thing to step away because this could have turned very ugly, right? If I kept trying, kept attempting, kept being incorrect, I could have just continued to stockpile losses. I'm happy I didn't do that, right? That was the one thing I'm happy I did not do. So you can see here about a $6,300 loss. If we go back to the month, we can see still for the year, fantastic. For the month, you can see I pretty much gave back my one of my days from last week. So I know I am okay, right? I know I can make this back. This is a nice, healthy loss, $6,000. But if I look at the account and I look at what I'm, been consistently trading, this is good. This is a good loss. I'm comfortable with it. What I'm not happy about is how I traded, what I was looking for, what I failed to realize early morning. This could have been avoided, right? And this is why we recap our trades. We do videos. we look back at what we did wrong. This is the importance. And so that's what I want to do with you here today. So $6,300 red day today. Nice one. Nice one. But we're going to forget about it. We're going to move forward. So what did I do wrong today? What was I on the wrong side of this morning? So coming into today on the NASDAQ futures, I was looking for two different pullback levels to long. I was looking, number one, around this area here. I was looking for these previous highs and some of this pre-market low for us to pull back and then long off that level. That was really where I started to get aggressive as the NASDAQ pulled back into that level, as we started to pull back into those previous highs. You can see the NASDAQ did not hold there, right? No hold, no willingness to maintain. We basically just flushed right through that level without any hold at that Thursday and that Friday pre-market high. So that's really where things started to go wrong for me, right? I started to get that slip through that demand. I was in some long positions, and I got caught having to take some losses. Now, the next thing that I sort of encountered today was that as the NASDAQ was moving lower, we were starting to push into my next level, which was around that 17,560. And what happened to me today, which I'm sure you guys could experience before, right, may have experienced before, was that by the time that the NASDAQ has gotten down to that demand level today, I was accepting losses and almost already have accepted that I am wrong on the day and that I need to limit the losses that I take, and I need to limit the trades that I put on, the risk that I put on, right? So pretty much by around 10:30 today, I was already down on my portfolio. I was wrong on that morning drive, right? The morning drive was to the downside. I was looking for a little bit of a shorter downside for a nice push, didn't get it. And by the time we got back to that demand, which I was watching today, right, down at that 560, I pretty much have taken myself out of trading for the day. So could I have made back these trades if I was thinking clearly, if I went ahead and longed off that level? Absolutely, right? But I know, and I think this is something that you need to know as a trader, are you in the right mindset to do that, right? And we can very easily say in hindsight that we could have just longed at our demand and made back our losses. But I know, as a trader has been doing this for a long time, I could tell when I'm not in the right mindset, right? And if you guys can tell that just any type of amount in your trading, right, if you can sort of feel it intraday where you're like, I don't think this is going to be a good day, I'm really not feeling in line with what I'm looking at, don't just start throwing money at the wall, right? Don't just start throwing trades in hoping that you can catch one right? So I sort of felt that way today around that NASDAQ after that big NASDAQ drop. I was sort of in that mindset that I wasn't reading things correctly. I sort of just hung it up and I took the losses that I did. So the other thing that I would say I did incorrectly today was that maybe I was a little bit too aggressive to long this market back to the upside, being so close to this supply above on the NASDAQ, right? We were very close to some big supplies above on the NASDAQ. If we go out to the hourly chart, right, you can see that we've had some very difficult rejections up in this 17,750 area, and we opened the market pretty much right at that supply. So being that we opened so close to that rejection point this morning on the NASDAQ, I probably should have given this more downside right before trying to long back into that level. And so because I was in sort of early, right, and I got stuck in that morning drive to the downside, being so close to that supply was sort of incorrect, right? Looking for longs so close to that upside supply in the NASDAQ, which was also aligning obviously with that 429 on the QQQ, right? We knew we had that 429, 430 supply on the Qs, and I was just a little bit too early to start trying to catch longs here back into that supply where it looked like the NQ, the NASDAQ, the QQQ needed a little bit more downside before that long entry set in. So if we look at this QQQ on a little bit of a shorter term time frame, I can try to give you an idea of where on the market I was starting to look for longs, and it was right here, guys. Right here around that 950 time frame, right around that 428 level on the QQQ. After we saw that wick right there and that push back to the upside, this is where I started to formulate a lot of my long ideas. So I saw that rejection of supply, which was good, and I stayed patient for that to reject, which was good as well. I saw us come back into that pre-market low, right, which was 428. If I go to the QQQ, right, you can see we have this 428 area. That was a very important level previously, right, in the pre-market and obviously intraday. And then obviously looking at the market later, look at how 428 reacted towards end of day. So I knew 428 was a big level. Now, if I go down to the 5-minute chart, you guys can see right here, right around that 950 time frame, we got a very strong wick off that 428 and started to push back to the upside. So because of that, it looks like I got faked out into some long positions off that level, which ultimately you can see rejected very aggressively. So I was entering some longs on that NASDAQ QQQ hold, looking for that pushback to the upside, but it looked like the market needed more downside. Now, the only thing I would say here that I could have avoided, now looking back at this, right, and going through it, this is the stuff we need to go through and understand. The only thing that maybe I should have been more focused on, understood more, was that while this was a solid hold here at 428, I was longing back into very close to that 429, 430, right? So my long entries, as I was formulating them off that 428 on the Qs, was just very close into that supply again. And maybe that is what I should have been more focused on. The fact that, yes, this was a holding level. Yes, it started to show it for me, but it's just not enough margin back to that upside before that heavy supply steps in again. This is something that I think, or at least I wish, I would have looked at intraday today. This is likely, that realization likely would have saved me from a lot of my losses today. So if I go back into TradeZella, we can look at my first AMD trade. This was pretty much a 1 entry and 1 exit trade. This was a $3,800 loss. This was about a 23% loss. And you can see here, I was entering around that 179 pullback, 179.50, and I exited under that 178.50. So here was my mindset on AMD this morning and why I attempted a long here on AMD. So I was sort of watching this 178.50 level on AMD. This was a previous high from Friday that I was looking to see if it would hold. So you guys can see right here, we had 178.50, some 178.50 action here, and again, 178.50 right here. Now this morning, right, you can see we had that nice pop, and we had that pullback into that level. And you guys know, right, this is the same thing that I usually look for. This differs, this does not differ at all from what I usually trade. This is a nice break and retest of the previous day highs. So I started to see, if I go down to the two-minute time frame, I started to see AMD holding above that level, right? Let me go ahead and zoom in on the 2-minute time frame. And right here, this morning, right, you can see 178.50, 178.50. We started to maintain it here as well, right? And so I was sort of formulating longs off that 178.50, looking for that upside move back to the upside. Now, at this time, I was watching TSM, which was relatively strong in the morning, right? You can see big drive on TSM out of the gates. NVIDIA was, again, a nice drive out of the gates as well. So I saw two semiconductors sort of squeezing to the upside. After seeing that, maybe I got a false sense of confidence there that AMD would try to do the same off that 178.50. So I was watching that 178.50. If I zoom back in, right, we can see that we were trying to hold that 178.50, and I may have just gotten a false sense of confidence that AMD would try to hold that demand, push to the upside. You can see here, it just simply did not. AMD was actually one of the weakest stocks of the morning, dropping pretty much out of the gates. What is this? This is a very large amount. Out of the gates, dropped about 5%, pretty much straight off the open. So I just got caught here by looking for a break and retest long. Other semiconductors holding strong. I was trying to enter my longs in this 178.50. I never got that pushback to the upside, and I had to stop out on that break under that level. Unfortunate, but right, this is what trading is, and the key that we had to do here was we had to accept our loss, right? You can see right here, I accepted my loss under 178.50. That was where I took my exit. If I did not exit here, guys, this would have been a really ugly day, right? So a nice little lesson there. If our level breaks, if the level we're looking to hold breaks, you have to cut it, right? You got to stick to that. You got to stay disciplined in cutting that loss. Now, the other thing that I would say about AMD, guys, which again, obviously in hindsight, it's easy to look back and understand what I could have done differently, right? But what I could say here is that what I did wrong was that I did try to long that 178.50, which I believe was a valid level. But if I look to the upside, right, I was longing just a little bit too close to that 181 supply, right? That 181 supply being a major rejection point in the past, and me looking to long that 178.50 back into that 188 may have just been the wrong idea, right? And there was just overall too many sellers and too much weakness up here at this 188, creating that downside and very aggressive move that I got caught in, right, and had to take my loss. So, guys, the next trade that I want to review with you here is Netflix. And the reason I'm going to go over this Netflix trade is because I think this portrays a good example of how I missed the morning downside. I was on the wrong side of it early morning, and I got in a little bit too late looking for more downside, and I was caught again incorrect, right? And so this is something that I am very cautious of doing, right? I even talked about it with the group saying, hey, I missed that morning downside. I don't want to just chase this now. I don't want to try to catch the downside after this big move. I'll look to see if something shows up that I really like that could give me that entry for more downside. But after that big drop in the morning, let's not keep jumping on the put side because we've seen that market reverse. That's ultimately what it did. But you can see here, I tried to take a Netflix trade off a very key 560 level. Now, let me explain to you why I took this trade on Netflix. So, on Netflix, we had a very key previous support around 560. You can see right here, 560, 560, 560, 560. We had all this 560 area on Netflix. Now, intraday today, we had a very clear drop under 560 that started to look like a rejection point. So right here, you guys can see, I had that 560 level mapped out on my charts. You can see here, Netflix dropped 560, and it started to look like a rejection below it, right? We can start to see that rejection under that 560 level. So what I saw here was a break and retest under 560, and I said, okay, let me go ahead and try to attempt a short here, put a stop loss over that 560, and see if this could potentially bear flag for another downside move. You can see, I'll go ahead and go into my entries and exits. I entered here around this 1053, exited around that 11-12 time frame for about a $2,500 loss. Now, what happened here, right? Why did Netflix not stay under 560? And this goes back to that NASDAQ bounce, that NASDAQ demand that stepped up later day. And what happened here for me, right? What happened, which I did incorrectly here, was I was then, after the big drop, looking to add on to more shorts, right? Looking for further downside as the NASDAQ was starting to approach demand. So we can see here on the NASDAQ, right here, we had that morning downside move, right? And I missed it, right? So I had that morning downside move, and I missed the downside. Unfortunate. I was on the wrong side of the market. I was caught on the wrong side. We had the big drop. And what I did incorrectly here on Netflix was that I continued to look for downside as the NASDAQ was starting to maintain my exact NASDAQ demand level, which was 17,560. So the NASDAQ started to maintain that 560 level. This was around 1044. And if I go to Netflix, around that same time, around 1044, was exactly when Netflix was getting stuck under 560. So a little bit tricky here, right? I was shorting Netflix, looking for us to stay under 560, but the NASDAQ was starting to hold that very key demand. And this is why I get taken out of this trade, because with that NASDAQ hold, with the tech market moving back higher, of course, Netflix is going to hold as well. And that is how I get stuck in a loss here on Netflix. So the main thing that I want to touch on today's video, guys, is my incorrect read on the market, because all of the trades that I had today was a product of being on the wrong side of the NASDAQ market, right? This is where you have to be in line. This is where you have to be in touch. You have to be in touch with the moves going on in the overall market. And today was a day I was not. Now, typically, you guys know if you watch this channel, I am. And that's why I've had some of my recent success, because I've been able to trade very cleanly off some of these market levels. Today, a good example of not being the case and me taking losses due to that. So if I could explain today in 2 steps, right? Step 1 or part 1 was taking longs too early in here, looking for a reversal, right? Taking longs too early in here at this demand here, looking for a reversal off that 17,640. That was too early. So number 1, right here, too early to the longs off 17,650. Number 2, after we saw that drop, I was too late to the short side after we held this demand. Number 2, right, I was too late to the short side trying to short as the NASDAQ maintained that 17,560. So overall, the entire morning, a little bit being on the wrong side of the market. I share this with you, hopefully as an educational purpose, right? Not for you to come here and rip me in the comments, right? Most people, 99.9% of people would not share this with you. And the only reason I am here, right? The only reason you're hearing it on YouTube is because you have someone like me who's willing to share it with you and share you the reality of what happened to me today. This is going to happen to you in your trading, and the best thing that we can do from a day like today is manage our risk. Do not let it get out of control. Do not go on tilt. If you start to feel like you're not reading the market correctly, cut it and accept the losses. That's what I did today. I end the day with about a $6,000 red day. It's in line with some of the winning days I've had, so I'm happy about that. But I want to make sure you understand that the losses I took today was due to me not reading the market correctly or not being on the right side of the NASDAQ market today off of the key levels that I had this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the video here. I hope you had some key lessons to take away from today's video. Those were some of the losing trades that I took today. Wrong side early morning, wrong side later in the day. Overall, the market did exactly what it should have done, right? So we're not going to blame anyone but ourselves. The market did exactly what it should have done. Dropped off that supply, held that 17,760 demand, popped back to the upside. I was too early and I was too aggressive. A learning lesson that I will take away, and I will make back these profits tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night. Hope you learned something from today's video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.